The Crotchety Old Men podcast is not a registered investment, legal, or tax advisor or a broker-dealer. All investment financial opinions expressed by or on the Crotchety Old Men podcast are from the personal research and experience of the owner of the site and are intended as educational material. Although best efforts are made to ensure that all information is accurate and up to date, occasionally unintended errors and misprints may occur. Before you invest or make any investment-based decisions, consider your own personal circumstances. You should do your own research and seek advice from a financial professional.
Well. Greetings, everyone, on another Thirsty Thursday with the Crotchety Old Men podcast. My name is Gary Smith, your host today. You know, I'm a retired insurance agent, retired commercial real estate broker, and serial financial consultant, if you will, enjoying the wonderful life of what we call retirement. Joining me in the studio also is my major partner in crime, George Crumley. George, good morning, and tell people about your background because it's so extensive, man. I don't want to take up the whole segment talking about you because I can preach about you for decades.
Hey, good morning, Smitty. It's always a blessing to be here. And 36 years in corporate America, investing since I was probably a young adult, buying property since I was probably in my mid 20s. Got my real estate license about 20 years ago. Currently still active doing that, and just an active learner as far as financial information, trying to constantly learn every day. And as you'll see during this podcast, we'll talk about things that we're still learning, but just enjoy the financial game, and just more importantly, I enjoy sharing it, sharing the information that I've learned over the years. So yeah, I'm glad to be here, and yeah, happy Thursday. So what are we
Absolutely,
talking about today,
absolutely.
Gary?
Well, George, I think a good subject to talk about today is how to prepare, plan, and prosper from investing in insurance and how to manage your money to the point where you're able to um, weather this storm that we're in. I mean, this storm of inflation, high inflation rate, causing a lot of fear. You and I have had other conversations in the past about how it is impacting the housing market, how it's impacting various other alternative investments in terms of annuities, 401ks, and whatnot. I believe it would be a great opportunity and very apropos for us to somewhat revisit some of the foundational things, if you will, as it relates to investing. Um, if I reflect back on my professional career, as I kind of alluded to early on, particularly in my uh, real estate investment career, where I found fixed flip residential properties and all that, um, being prepared for the unknown is something that a lot of our listeners are probably haven't had a whole lot of information or insight about. And I was just thinking, George, that maybe we could share some things along that line. Uh, it's never too late, even for people our age. I won't call us old fogies because we're still young. But for our youth too, I mean, I call it youth, but for our younger people, in that age, in that stage where they're just about to set out on life and get their lives started. So that's where I thought maybe we could, share some insight, share some information, and as you know, you always got some nuggets for us. So what do you say?
Yeah, that's kind of a back to basics. That's kind of what I'm thinking in my head right
Mm-hmm.
now. Because if you look at where we were in the market, I'll just say the market, which includes the housing market, the stock market, from a savings and building wealth perspective, like 6 months ago, everything was really booming. I mean, you had people putting on multiple offers for homes selling at all time high. Your 401k, any kind of stock investment was off the chart. And here we are 6 months later, and it's just the complete opposite. And I think, first of all, from an investor perspective, we have we have to understand that this does happen, and we've lived through this before. So I think going back to basics, we have to think about, why did we invest to begin with? Well, I'm gonna tell you, obviously the basic thing is it's better than putting their money in, one of these big banks out here. Because as we've talked in previous discussions, for every dollar that you put into a bank, they turn it over 10 times. So we'll let you do the math as far as how they're using your money. But I think that we have to talk about things like, compound interest. That's one of the real cornerstone stones of investing. Compound interest is basically, it's like the snowball effect. As you put money in, you reinvest dividends, it continues to grow. When you first start with that snowball, it's small, it's kind of hard to push down the hill, but once you get it going, that it kind of builds and builds and builds and builds. And that's something that we really have to look at in trying to build wealth. Is compound interest was one of the first things. So when you
Right.
when you look at
Right. That
that,
is so true.
yeah. And then, of course, when you look at that, you want to also talk about, like I said, kind of reinvesting your dividends. The dividends is they're paying you. Okay, so not only do you have the stock going up and down, you still have the dividends being reinvested. So it's here again. We've talked about this before, how it's important that at a certain point you buy stocks that pay dividends, and this is why. These are the times that comes in handy.
Right.
So
George, as I was
when we
listening to
talk
you,
about
and
that, go ahead.
oh, okay, no, I didn't want to, but I'm just going to interject that, as thing that came to my mind just a second ago is that I wonder if our listeners know the difference between saving money versus investing money. You know, saving money is typically, something that you're saving for some future event. Most people save for a vacation, or they'll save maybe not knowingly but erroneously for retirement versus investing for retirement. And to that end, and you hit on a lot of good points here just in your opening. Maybe you can delve in a little bit more in terms of the going back to the basics in terms of investing the money.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I really benefited from was payroll deduction.
Okay.
Um, Being able to, have money going directly into my 401k. I had some couple IRAs, money going directly. So that basically, that before I even touched that money, it was already gone. It was just like paying a
Mm-hmm.
bill. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of sometimes what you have to look at as far as investing. It's like paying a bill, but the good
Mm.
thing is you're paying yourself. Okay, so payroll deduction is so important, and what
Mm-hmm.
comes with that is what we call dollar cost averaging. So when in a times like this, you have to say, oh man, my overall portfolio has gone down. But you also have to look at it from a more positive perspective, which is saying that, I'm buying stocks on sale, and everybody likes a sale. Okay. So now that price of, some of your big stock, Home Depot or Walmart, where they were at 12, $15 a share, now they're at 9. So it's like buying it at a discount or buy it on sale. So when you're dollar cost averaging, what happens now is you're buying more stocks so that when it does eventually go back up, you have more in your portfolio. Here again, for an example, say I've got $100 a month going towards buying stocks, and basically I'm getting 5 shares. But then
Mm-hmm.
next week when the money comes, or next 2 weeks when the money comes out of my check, that same $100 may buy 7 shares. The next week, it may buy 9 shares because of the price of the stock is going down. So if I'm on my 20s or 30s, I still got another 20, 30 years to see that growth. But basically, what has happened is my portfolio is growing with the number of shares that I have because of the price and dollar cost averaging. That's why it's so important to do that. And those are some of the basic cornerstones that I lived through and helped me, develop a portfolio. That's what I had to do. So I think that's very important. What do you think?
Man, I'm telling you, that dollar cost averaging, George, sounds like a very powerful tool. I mean, very powerful. It's simple, certainly easy to execute, based upon just what you just said from your job. Have, but I think what I'm hearing more succinctly or more consistently than everything else is that consistency, the consistency of making it a habit of saving money and then making it a habit of investing a portion of everything you keep. You know, it kind of reminds me of why, you people who are believers or Christians or what have you, and they believe in this thing of tithing, that 10%, and that's fine. But I question sometimes, what are you doing with the other 90%? Okay, because the tithe is the tithe, but that other 90% is so important. And if you get into a habit of putting aside some money for yourself, just like you said, just having to go directly direct deposit into your savings account or your investment account, so that now you build up a nest egg, whereas that now you can leverage that money into your respective, whether stock or what have you, particularly if you're working with an investment advisor, to investigate those options. What options do you have based upon the amount of capital that you have? And going to the basics, also, George, what are your thoughts though with ensuring that capital, ensuring that nest egg? And we have a tendency to insure our houses. Why? Because our houses, in most instances, is one of the most valuable assets we have. We insure our cars, our vehicles. We insure our lives. Most of us is something, both our health. But what about life insurance, George? What are your thoughts about that in terms of insuring?
Well, Gary, that kind of goes right in line. After we talk about investing the dividends, we talk about dollar cost averaging, we talk about payroll deduction, and we talk about owning stocks. But one of the things that we want to also talk about is diversification. And I think
Mm-hmm.
the life insurance falls right into that category. And when I say diversification, right now, I think tech stocks are probably taking a beating. So you may not want to be in tech stocks, or you want to be in tech stocks here again because of the buying them on sale. But then you also may want to be in, real estate REITs. You may want to also be in some other stocks that are really still paying, decent amount of money and are still holding their value, and wait those tech stocks to come back around. But when you look at life insurance, there are so many different facets of how you can utilize life insurance. And like I said, I'm still learning this game myself. Even the fact, I bought my first life insurance policy. I was like 21 or 22 years old. My brother sold life insurance. I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but I knew he said it was a good investment. So I said, what the heck? I'm working for the government. I've got a little money, and sure, let's let it ride. So, you know, in years after that, uh, I still continued to keep the life insurance, and I watched the cash value because it was a variable life policy, which means that not only are you putting the money in for the safety net or the actual insurance itself, you're allowed to put in a little bit more money, which actually went into store, stock accounts. Okay, so they actually kind of look like your 401k, where you're able to invest in different funds. So at this time, they would put the money in different funds. But this is where it kind of gets fun because it's the things that the way you're investing, you're doing the payroll deduction, which out of sight, out of mind. And the life insurance is probably coming directly out of your paycheck, out of sight, out of your mind. So you're basically, like you said, you're living on the difference, and this money is building up in the background. So let's fast forward a little bit and let's kind of talk about the pain everybody is experiencing right now. And then we'll come full circle and talk about how these investments are going to now somewhat help you out. So we talked about by in the housing market, how months ago people were standing in line, multiple offers, houses selling out of the yin yang, just so with the high prices. Now people that are renting are basically experiencing the same type of thing. You can't, rents are going up, they can't find houses to rent, there's multiple offers to rent houses. So you kind of figure out, so how do I protect myself against that? How do I get out of this situation, this cycle? How do I still build wealth? And I think that some of the things that we've just talked about kind of bring you into that. But then you have to look at the insurance a little bit deeper. Okay, I know you've sold insurance, and I'm
Mhm.
familiar with borrowing against the money that builds up in your account and how that only affects the face amount. But here, why don't you talk a little bit about some of the other aspects, I'm sorry, of life insurance, and let's kind of enlighten our audience on that.
Okay, absolutely, George. Well, one of the benefits, and I think is often overlooked with insurance, particularly life insurance, permanent insurance. We're not talking term insurance here, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking permanent insurance, just like George said, whether it's variable or whole life. Is the accumulation facet of that. I believe that we have been taught erroneously about the benefits of insurance. It's always been on that one side about the death benefit, and that's definitely and certainly an important and critical or essential part of insurance, because for us, particularly African American families, many of them are insurance poor, meaning that they're underinsured. But here's what I've learned over the years of having sold insurance. When I was selling insurance back, and I sold variable life as well, is that the utilization of that accumulation fund. And I want to kind of park here for a second. As the monies are accumulated, um, and to George's point about the variable and the options that you have in a variable life type policy, where it's almost like a mutual fund or annuity, what have you, where you can select different alternative investments. But the accumulation part of it is this: you're able to borrow money from that. And as I had kind of enlightened my clients back then about, hey, here is almost like a private savings vehicle where that you can accumulate monies in this insurance policy as you continue to pay those premiums at such time that you're going to accumulate enough money whereas that you can make some decisions in terms of perhaps maybe helping your child or another young person in your family to go to college. Um, Most, or if there's a new car or something that you have your eyes on, your hopes on, okay, now you can borrow the money from your policy and go buy that car or make your first investment or what have you. The piece that I did not share, and to your point, George, like you said, you just spent 66 years and finally found out some different things. And we all continue to learn and we continue to grow in this on this journey in terms of financial independence. But what I failed to share was that by borrowing this money out of your insurance policy, it's imperative that you pay yourself back. You want to treat that loan the same way you would treat a loan if you would go to a bank. If you went to a bank and borrowed money to go on a vacation or borrowed money to buy a car, what have you, what are you going to have? You're going to have car payments, all right? You're going to have car payments plus interest. Well, why not use that same process to pay yourself back? Not only are you putting the money back into your account, but you're also paying yourself the interest. And here is that missing piece. But I believe that if we latch on to that, there's a steep learning curve to this, and maybe no everybody won't catch this in this particular podcast. But we're going to continue to talk about this thing of using your insurance policy, using your money, and changing our mindset to what somewhat think like the bank. I sincerely believe that if we do this, not we'll solve two issues. Because, like you said, the pain is at the pump. You hear people talking about it all the time. Man, these gas prices are going up. Inflation is going up higher than my wages are going up. Housing has gone up to the point so much it's so expensive now that people who were once competing for home ownership are now competing for the lease apartment. Unheard of. So, without rambling, George, I think that to summarize what I'm trying to say here is that we've got to think wiser or take more wiser, proactive approaches to really hone in on the importance and the critical building of the essential of put building a solid foundation, and that foundation is going to be the life insurance. Because in the event that something happens or you don't get a chance to fulfill your goals with that, at least your family can continue on, and that legacy goes on with that process.
Yeah, Gary, and I think we really need to hammer this home, and I'm going to try to put this in a different perspective. Okay, so one of the things that I've always talked about in the past, and people that have listened to my money talk or my podcast, is these zero interest loans that you can get from some of your popular credit cards, Citibank, um, American Express. So basically, what they'll do is they'll say you can take these credit cards and you can roll them into their loan, and for the next 12 months there'll be no interest, and then they charge you either 3% or 4% to borrow the money. But the idea was if you pay it off within that 12-month structure, you don't pay any additional interest, which I think is great. I've had people compliment and thanks for telling me. I bought some furniture, and I bought 12 months no interest, and boom, it's like I'm getting the item plus I'm paying interest. And one of my mottos is pay no interest, pay no fees. So fast forward, let's throw life insurance in this. So say I'm 35 years old and I've got a job, and basically I take out a whole life, a variable life policy, and I'm paying, $65 a month for the insurance, and I'm paying another $200 to go into the investment portion. So basically, what I can do, taking a step forward, I can put $1,000 into that, and I can build the cash values faster. So what's the benefit? The benefit becomes now I can, at some point, I can borrow
Mm.
against that. So I want to invest. And I'm gonna let you jump into this. I'm gonna kind of tip the iceberg on it. But say I want to invest in some commercial real estate. So basically, what I've done is I can take the money that I have, and I can take it out, and like Gary said, you're gonna pay it back at 4% to yourself. But you can also take it and loan it to somebody else, and then you can loan it and basically charge them 12% interest. So that delta, that difference, is your money. That's the money you're making. You're paying back yourself, you're paying back your life insurance, plus you're making money on the money you've loaned out. So here again, a hedge against inflation, a hedge against, the market going down. And you can continue to do it. And like I said, this has been kind of a well-kept secret. And I think that we need to look at this more and more, is how to use insurance, whole life and variable life, to our advantage. Not only in a down market, which we're experiencing right now, but in an up market. It's almost like becoming your own banker, because instead of going and borrowing the money from somebody else, you're basically borrowing your money for any reason, and any reason you want. You don't have to qualify for a loan because it's your money, and this is all legal. Okay, so yeah, I mean, if you've got an insurance policy, I strongly suggest you call your agent and you talk to them about borrowing against that policy. The interest rate for paying it back. What are the restrictions? How much money can you put in there in any given time? Because they do have limits. You can only put, I think, $25,000-$30,000 at a time into that policy, depending on the size of that policy. I mean, obviously, the larger the policy, the more you can put in there. But I think it's important that you look at that and see, because that's a vehicle that you can use and hedge against inflation. Also build, you know, cash values and build retirement for yourself. So I'm going to sum this up also, because if you say, well, what if I'm older? What if I'm in my 50s or my 60s? Well, you can actually do the same thing if you already have one of these policies. You can take some money out of your 401k and drop it into that insurance policy and do the same thing. Borrow against it, pay it back, 4%, paying to yourself. So yeah, I mean, this is a vehicle that can be used for, young adults as well as older adults. It's the whole gamut, but it's worth investigating. If you're not aware of this, it's worth investigating how you can take advantage, become your own banker with a life insurance policy. And the last thing we're going to talk about is annuities. Here again, annuity is another insurance product, usually used for once you retire. And the beauty of an annuity is if you want to, you can take your money from your 401k, a portion of that out of your 401k, drop it into an annuity, leave it in there. Some annuities 2 years, some annuities 5 years, that they have to hold in there. And basically, once you reaches that point, either 2 years or 5 years, then you can do what they call annuitize it. Once you annuitize it, that means you will get a guaranteed income for the remainder of your life. Okay. Here again, this is an edge against inflation. Now, the beauty of an annuity is it is also invested in the stock market. So in that 2 year elimination or 5 year elimination period, or I'll say holding period, where you're waiting for it to mature, it is in the stock market, so you are gaining additional proceeds in your annuity. So, for example, if it was originally worth $100,000 and stays in there 5 years, it now may be worth $116,000, and you get that also to annuitize once you're ready. And here again, another thing is there's different riders that you can have, which will allow you to do other different things to that annuity. But overall, if you leave it in there for 10 years, you can take the principal as well as any earnings out without any penalties. Okay, that's a great thing. Now, how it protects you against the market up and down is you never lose your principal. You may lose the interest that is gained over years if you have those types of ups and downs in the market, ebbs and flows, but you will never lose your principal. The other beauty is every year you can take 10% of the annuity without any penalty. And when I say penalty, I mean taxes. Okay. So for example, here again, if you put $100,000 in, you have it for 2 years. For the first year, you want to take 10% out. Now you got $90,000. You take $10,000 out, and so forth. Okay. Kind of defeats the purpose, but if you need it for an emergency, it's there, 10% with no penalty. Like I said, once it gets to that point, whatever the contract states, 2 years or 5 years, and I'm sure they have other flavors also. But here again, you're able to annuitize it, therefore guarantee you income for the remainder of your life. So here again, it's another product you want to talk to your insurance agent about. Yep. So, hopefully this information has been helpful today. From the Crotchety Old Men podcast, continue to tune in and listen. You can find us on any of your podcasts that you are accustomed to downloading, that being Apple, Stitcher, Google. We're on all those podcasts. Continue to listen to us. We'll continue to drop these nuggets of information and help you day to day navigate through this day to day world. But for me and my partner in crime, Smitty, Gary Smith, once again, it's the Crotchety Old Men signing off. You have a blessed day. We always try to leave you with a few nuggets. My nugget for the day is, hey, in all you're getting, get understanding. Peace.